Discretion is advised.
Let the people talk.
If the head does not see the need to discipline all his children, then Zambia is going to be left for the dog.
Let the people talk.
Aaron Rama kudibe economy yavuta. Batiganzire kwa hivi tarifa hiki ya malaite bei.
Your voice.
And I repeat, my life is not if you think that until one day they come to you. Mr. Given was beaten by his own cadres. What do they do all of them? Nothing.
Your views.
And if politicians steal, definitely they steal for the future so that they can live well. For heaven's sake, we even put the list.
Let the people talk. Every Tuesday and Friday at 9 a.m. on Phoenix FM.
Good morning, it's 9:07. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of Let the People Talk. I hope everyone is well this morning and had a good weekend and has started off the week rather well. Before we start the program this morning, I wanted to read a quote. This quote hit me hard this morning. This is a quote from the Pope. The Pope obviously is embroiled in a bit of a war of words with the U.S. President Donald Trump, but the Pope shared this on the social media platform X. And this is what he said. We must share what we have as a matter of justice. It is unjust to accumulate wealth and remain indifferent to others. The view of justice is both simple and radical, for it recognizes the image of God in others. A religion without mercy and a society without solidarity are a scandal in God's eye. I thought this was a very apt quote, and I thought I should just share this with everybody this morning, including those that hold public office, particularly the line about it being unjust to accumulate wealth and to remain indifferent to others. One of the big challenges that this country faces is this huge inequality between those that have and those that don't have. And let's borrow what the Pope says this morning. For those of you who are sitting in those offices who have amassed a lot of wealth, it is unjust for you to sit and watch those that don't have and remain indifferent to their sufferings. Our guest this morning is Mr. Antonio Mourinho Mwanza. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Valuchi, and good morning to the listener and the viewers.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. You told me yesterday that it's been a busy couple of days for you. Obviously, going around the country, mobilizing. For those that don't know, of course, Antonio Mwanza is the president of the Democratic Progressive Party. How's the mobilization been going?
It's going on well.
Yeah.
The ground is fertile.
Yeah.
People are excited. People are very excited to the prospects of the future. They're very excited in what we're trying to do, and they're warming up to our vision and our objectives. So it's been a very good experience. It's exciting, and we hope for the best in the future.
Yeah. So the last time I spoke to you was as we were entering the new year.
Yeah.
That was the last time you and I spoke, and I thought, you know what, let's speak again, because I did say, and I have been telling many others that, you know, I'm trying to speak to as many leaders of political parties before Parliament dissolves and campaigns officially start, because obviously at that point, and I think everybody should know this, at that point, everything changes in terms of what you hear on radio. Now you have a lot more paid for, conversations. These aren't obviously paid for. So I thought now it's another good time for you and I to have a chat again about, some of the big issues that this country is facing, and some of the big stories as well that have dominated some of our newspapers over the past couple of days. Let's start with employment. You and I spoke about employment the last time you were here. We've seen two areas of employment in the past 24 hours. Health workers were employed yesterday. Names were published yesterday by the government. Let me get your reaction first of all on that. There are still many people that were left behind. There's still so many complaints of people saying that they're not on a database. It's not correct that they only pick names from a database. What's your view on and a long-term solution to the crisis that is trying to employ as many people in sectors such as health?
Yeah, first of all, we need to be very clear that governments will always employ, because government runs with the civil service. And therefore, there's nothing new, there's nothing spectacular about government employing civil servants. It's a routine thing that all governments do. A government is one of the biggest employers, but what we need to focus on is that if we need to create sustainable employment, that also gives reward to the people. We need to focus on the private sector. Our employment must be based on private sector driven. Government employment will always be there, but it's very limited because government doesn't have the fiscal space to employ as many people as we would want to want them to do. For instance, I'll give you an example. Government has been employing teachers for a long time, but the shortfall of teachers continue to grow. As we're speaking right now, there are 108,000 teachers countrywide qualified who are on the streets who don't have jobs. By the end of this year, there will be thousands more of qualified teachers leaving colleges and universities. They'll still join the long queue of those teachers that have been on the waiting list. Even as we speak today, government still have teachers that they employed that they have not put on the payroll. They are still on the waiting list to be put on the payroll months in because government doesn't have the fiscal space to pay those teachers that they're employing. And then we have to focus on how do we have a thriving private sector that can grow jobs beyond what government is doing. Also, we need to look at what happens to government employment. Government employment also comes with a strain on the budget because we see that more than 30% of the entire national budget is spent on salaries and emoluments for public service workers, leaving very little to national development in health, agriculture, housing, sanitation, and so on and so forth. So yes, government will always continue to employ people, and there's nothing new about government employing people. It's one of the things that all governments do across the world. But if we want to have sustainable development, a sustainable work creation for the young people, 9 million youths that don't have jobs, we need to ensure that, first of all, we invest in high employment intensity sectors such as agriculture, such as technology, such as construction. And also we need to ensure that we make the private sector work. Currently, it is very difficult to run a company. It's extremely difficult. The taxes that you have to pay are too many. The compliance that you need to reach is just too vast, and it is a cost. The levies are too high. The taxes are too high. The small and medium enterprises is actually been clogged out. Where we are right now, a lot of people are closing shops, a lot of people are closing small businesses, a lot of people can't survive. ZRA is not helping. ZRA and NAPSA, ZRA is not helping. ZRA is going after our poor people, small scale and medium enterprises. They are leaving out the bigger boys, the mining sector. We also have to look at, for instance, where does the job come from? Mining sector accounts for 72% plus of our foreign exchange earnings, but it only contributes 3% to national employment. 3%, 100,000 people. So how do we make the mining sector employ more? Is to make sure that we just don't end at extraction of minerals, but also invest in processing and invest in manufacturing so that we can create industries right in this country that can provide jobs for the young people. Agriculture employs about 81% of all the people in the employment sector, but only contributes less than 5% to the national GDP because our agriculture has been reduced to production of maize. We need to look at agro-processing so we can have industries to produce our own finished products, our own milk, our own eggs, our own bacon, our own butter. We are losing over $450 million every 12 months in imports, buying eggs, buying butter, buying chicken from Brazil, from South Africa, when we can invest that money in our own youths, our own people, and put up industries to provide finished products and increase youth unemployment, reduce youth unemployment and increase youth employment. But also we need to look at the quality of the salaries of our people that are employed. We know, for instance, that out of roughly 3.9 million Zambians that are employed, about 1,058,324 of those earn between 1,500 kwacha to 2,500 kwacha per month. Those in informal employment. We need to look at the cost of living continues to go up. We're now talking about 12,000 kwacha plus for a family of 5. The cost of fuel, the cost of transport, the cost of housing, the cost of accommodation, the cost of everything is going up. But in terms of earnings, in terms of disposable incomes, our people's salaries continue to dwindle. And the value of the money continues to go down. So even the employment we're talking about, it's also not supposed just to be people being lined up and say you have been employed, but we have to look at their conditions of service, we have to look at the salaries they get. So the future for the employment of this country, for the young people, is the private sector. The future is to reduce the cost of doing business, reduce the cost of fuel, reduce the cost of electricity, reduce the cost of tax. and make sure that we get more of the tax from the mining sector, because they're the ones that produce more, they're the ones that actually gain more money, they're the ones that are making billions of dollars in profits every year. So our focus must be, how do we help the small scale, medium scale enterprises to make more money, to reduce the cost of doing business? At the moment, it's a mismatch. The cost of electricity is too high. It's too high. The cost of fuel is too high. And for as long as the cost of fuel and the cost of electricity is too high, it is very difficult to reduce the cost of production. ZRA wants money. It needs money. Government has to work. Government needs taxes. But we are strangling the poor. We are not getting a fair share of taxes from the mining sector. I always talk about the mining sector because they're the ones that make the killing in terms of profits. So we still are upside down. So congratulations to those that have been picked, but we also urge government to ensure that people that are picked and being given these jobs are put in on the payroll. But also we have to look at the salaries for our civil servants, the salaries for public service workers, and the salaries for those that are working in the private sector. Our young people working in the malls, our young people are working in restaurants, our young people working in the bars, our young people working in the farms. What kind of conditions, those that are working for companies that are run by foreign investors, what kind of working conditions are they in? What kind of salaries are they getting? We need to look at the welfare of the worker, but also we need to also ensure productivity, especially in the government sector. We propose as DPP that, for instance, promotions, transfers must be based on performance. I think we are not getting the best in many sectors because we are not putting performance first. I think we are putting up, it's about you getting a job, but what are you contributing? What is your performance? So we need to have performance-based approvals. We need to have performance-based promotions, performance-based way of assessing whether the workforce that we have is productive. It still goes back to the type of education we have. It has to marry the industries that we are building today with the type of education that our people are getting. I get sick when I think about what is going on, for instance, at the University of Zambia, because the purpose of the University of Zambia, I'm not diverting, the purpose of the University of Zambia is that historically we had less than 100 graduates at independence in 1964. And the President Kaunda and his colleagues decided to borrow a model of the United Kingdom and the United States of America, where they've got Ivy League schools, the best schools to produce the best brains to contribute to national development. And they set up the University of Zambia with clear intentions to produce the best human resource. So we need to look at the curriculum. We need to look at tertiary education must be relevant to the skills that are needed today, must be relevant to the challenges we face today, must be relevant to the opportunities of the future. We need workers that are productive, workers that add value, workers that produce, and workers not that only wait for the salaries.
Do you think that it's time that as a country we have difficult conversations? And one of those difficult conversations, I remember a couple of years ago when Ziale would publish or announce results, everyone would be upset with the numbers, and then all of a sudden somehow the numbers increase in terms of people that passed. Clearly there was something done, but that's a conversation for another day. But do you think that's something that we need to have a conversation around? Is it time for us to put a moratorium in terms of how many people are going into some of these studies? For example, teachers, health. If you have a backlog of people that are unemployed who've studied nursing, medicine, teachers, but then you're still graduating people, there's absolutely no way that you can employ all of them.
Yes, and this is, let's start first with the qualifications and quality. Ziale has always been under serious scrutiny. But I'm happy we're also getting the same scrutiny with the Teaching Council of the Health Council of Zambia, the Nursing Council of Zambia. There are a lot of people that have failed, those that were sitting for exams to have a certification of their trade. Failing people, we don't take pride in failing people, because it doesn't mean that because we're failing people then there's progress. I think people must qualify. So yes, we must be stringent. Yes, we must be very focused. We must set a high standard, but failing people is not equivalent to progress. I think what we need to do as a country is to take stock of, for instance, our manpower, available manpower, qualified manpower, and also to set up standards and to improve on the quality of those that are already employed. I've worked for international institutions. They spend a lot of time in training. They spend a lot of time sending their staff for further studies. I'll give you one example. Ministry of Lands. Ministry of Lands, in terms of record keeping and in terms of giving people the title, has been chaotic. They have put up an electronic system that clearly seems that whoever is working on this electronic system is either they don't understand the systems they've put in place, or they're incompetent, or both. Because it is extremely difficult for you to get the records, whether you are chasing your title, or you are chasing a letter of intent, or you are chasing for an offer letter. The Ministry of Lands will give you hell. And most of the time, they will tell you their system is down. So it's either there is incompetence, or there's lack of seriousness, or they don't understand the system they've put in place. One day I sat with my son. My son is a computer wizard. And I said, I wish I had the decree to go to the Ministry of Lands and just say, boy, sit here and help these people to clean their system, make it easy, make it progressive, and make it easy for people to access their land. It's the same with Smart Zambia. Smart Zambia is supposed to provide us with seamless internet, in terms of seamless programs to help us access government facilities and government services online. But Smart Zambia is one of the institutions that itself is failing even to provide that services, even within themselves.
It's not that they don't have qualified people. They have very smart people who work in these places.
Yeah,
I know a couple of people who work at Smart Zambia, but maybe the issue is just the way that, I hate to say it, but sometimes it feels like when people get employed in government, everyone is very relaxed about I work in government, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. There's a very laissez-faire attitude about working in government. And that is one of the things that we need to deal with, the attitude. And you know why there's a laissez-faire attitude is because whether you work, whether you don't, whether you produce results or you don't produce results, you still get paid. So we need to change the systems that people are supposed to be paid for the work they do and not be paid because they showed up. What we have in government is that you get paid because you showed up. All you need to do is to show up and clock in and clock out. And this is exact log in and log out. This is exactly what is even happening at Parliament. If you look at Parliament, all you need to do is to log in that you have come in as a member of Parliament and log out. And on Thursday, you get your sitting allowance. So there is no system to check on your productivity, and that's why we have to focus on, are these workers, first of all, what are the benchmarks? What is required of each one of us individually and collectively as units and departments, and also as ministries? What are the benchmarks? In this country, there are no benchmarks. In this country, there's no planning. Avaluchi, you see that in terms of planning, do you know that we don't plan beyond 3 months? And this has showed us, for instance, with a fuel crisis, that we're failing to plan beyond 20 days. So this country has no plan. If you go around this country, you realize, for instance, that buildings are mushrooming everywhere. There's no plan, for instance, on sanitation. There's no plan on population growth. There's no plan on expansion. It is just a country where anybody can wake up today and start building anywhere. And we don't plan to say, okay, in the next 50 years, in the next 100 years, what will be the population size? These buildings that we are building today, are they modern buildings? No. If you go on CDF projects, it's a sham, the quality of works that are being done by most of these CDF projects. We are still doing the 1x3 classroom blocks with the same outdated designs, that have got no aesthetic, whatever. It is just banamanga 1x3 classroom block. So we'll digress a little, but isn't the problem there that you've said to people, you've sort of decentralized, and by decentralizing, I hate to say it, but you get low quality. Yeah. So again, let's just delve into that a bit. First, the decentralization as it is done right now is a myth. It's not a reality, because decentralization and total devolution of government will require that those that are at the district and the constituency levels and ward levels not only have the right to make the decisions, but they also have the right to spend. As it is, they don't have the right to spend.
even what they create as even what they do as their own decisions, they're not their decisions, because after all is said and done, a minister sitting in Lusaka has to have a final say. So what we need is, first of all, when we devolve, and this is one of the bigger challenges of the CDF component, is because we have a critical shortfall of manpower at local government. Many of these councils don't have the required number of the required specialized workers that need to be there. Project managers, accountants, auditors, and those that can do monitoring and evaluation. We have a serious staffing level problem. And it's true that this has affected the quality of the works. Some of the reports that you get from the Public Accounts Committee reports is that some of the works, for instance, under CDF have not been done because there was nobody to do the necessary work and to have the necessary approvals. And sometimes there's been quality issues because of lack of engineers, lack of planners, lack of auditors, lack of monitors and evaluators. So we have a critical shortfall. That's why I was saying, going forward as a nation, the first thing that we need to do is to take stock of the work staff that we have. We need to take stock. How many teachers do we have and how many do we need? How many doctors do we have? How many do we need? How many
and tie that
surveyors
into infrastructure as well, correct?
Yes, how many surveyors do we have?
I was reading somewhere where they were saying that we have a shortage of hospitals and clinics, but we also have a shortage of doctors, nurses, etc., etc.
Yes.
And because we have that, then there's now a disparity. Even if you employ so many, it's still not meeting the number that is required because everything else has to go up as well.
Yes.
So you're employing people to be in these same structures, but you're forgetting that actually there's a shortage of physical hospitals in many areas.
And that's where the planning now comes in. That's why we need the data, where we are here. You saw what Cuba did. When Cuba realized that there was a critical shortage of medical staff, Cuba immediately embarked on revising their health courses. And they said, instead of going for 7 years to become a medical doctor, we'll reduce it to 4 years, but you focus on specialization. So we need to know, for instance, we have got shortages of teachers in English, teachers of mathematics, science, technology, and engineering. And remember, we are putting up STEM schools. But we're also not putting up the same level of investment to have teachers who can teach us children's science, technology, engineering. We are not having the same amount of investment that is needed to produce the results which we need. So the biggest challenge is that there's no planning in this country. There's literally no planning, whether it is about health, education, employment, staffing. There's no planning. There's just each pante. We need to reach a level where we can sit and say, what is our greatest challenge today? For instance, in the mining sector, what are our challenges? The mining sector, number one challenge has been who owns the mines. So how do we do, what is it that we're supposed to do as a country to ensure that we increase on our shareholding? Those are the conversations we should be having. Number two is that as we are speaking today, government doesn't know the exact quantities of copper, for instance, that is being produced and exported on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, yearly basis. We don't have the capacity. We should be looking at, okay, so what do we do to build that capacity? How many people do we need to train as geologists? How many people do we need to train as accountants? How many people do we need to train as lawyers? We are not doing that. That's why we have a chaos, for instance, that we see at the University of Zambia. A university built for 4,000 people is now housing 28,000 people with the same level of infrastructure, same level.
But that's appeasement, isn't it? It's appeasement. Along the line, through the years, politicians have felt to appease young people, let's allow more people to enter these institutions without thinking and saying. You were at the University of Zambia. You weren't just a student. You held senior role at the university. So you know this better than I do. But sometimes it feels like some revelations that come out, i.e. 4,000, it's built for 4,000, but there are 28,000 people. That should tell you that there is a problem. And that problem is a simple problem. The problem is that too many people along the years have just said, enroll as many.
Yeah.
Because we need to win votes. That's what it is.
Partly the problem, but the major problem with the University of Zambia, Copperbelt University, and all other public universities and colleges has been a chronic underfunding of the education sector. That's been the biggest challenge. When Kaunda and his comrades made the University of Zambia, their goal was very simple. Was to provide this country with the creme de la creme of the intelligentsia, to have the best brains compete to produce the best human resource so that we can have the human resources that we need as a country to develop. That was their agenda. And Kaunda, what he did is that when we talked about free education under Kaunda at University of Zambia, he provided everything, including blankets. Because what they wanted was to first get the best students in the schools and take them to the University of Zambia to learn and to become workers for this country. And because they wanted that, they had a very strong program of ensuring internship. When you're at the University of Zambia during the recess, you would go into the field to familiarize yourself with the practical side of the university degree that you are pursuing. Now, what happens is that over the years, after UNIP left, over the years, the MMD government neglected higher education. The Patriotic Front, to a greater extent, also neglected higher education. The UPND has also continued to neglect higher education. If you look at the investment, for instance, that is going into higher education, it is very minimal. The University of Zambia, why, for instance, they are over-enrolling is because they have to survive. The government of the Republic of Zambia, starting with MMD, PF, and now UPND, have failed, first of all, to adequately fund the University of Zambia. They are supposed to pay tuition fees for the students that are being put, that the students that are on government bursary and those that are on loans. Government does not remit that money. When they remit, it's always half, quarter, and they don't remit in time. Actually, there are millions upon millions, billions in arrears that government has not been paying the University of Zambia for years, from MMD to date. Government is failing even to, for instance, pay the lecturers, pay the retirees, pay gratuities, pay the workers, because government is not remitting money. Every student at University of Zambia is in a government scholarship and is accommodated. That accommodation must be paid by the government. Government commits to pay the accommodation, they don't pay. From 2022 to 2026, the UPND government has allocated about 8 billion kwacha for infrastructure development. We don't see that infrastructure development at University of Zambia, at Copperbelt University, or at any other university. We are failing to invest in just building over hostels. We are failing. Private universities are building hostels for their students. They are partnering up with private sector business to put up hostels. We are failing. That sewer system, that water system, the sanitation system was meant to accommodate 4,000 people. That sewer system, that water system has not been worked on. It has not been improved. It has not been maintained. It is dilapidated, it's rotten, it's broken down, and now it is accommodating 28,000 people. And what is even much more annoying is that you know that the government doesn't even know the sewer system of the University of Zambia, where it starts, where it ends. They don't know. They don't have a plan. They don't even know. So it shows you that the University of Zambia had to survive. So in order to survive, what the University of Zambia started doing was to enroll what we call self-sponsored students, because government doesn't remit the money. They don't have the money to run the university. So what do?
But at some point, they need to be self-sufficient.
Yes, we'll come back to that. So they said, okay, we're going to open up, and we're just going to say, okay, we'll open up and allow every son, everybody who has the money to come in. Okay, so now you are compromising on the quality
and the intelligence.
You are compromising on everything because now it's about, okay, self-sponsored students, you have got the money, you pay on time. Government students who are sponsored by the government doesn't pay the money, but the university has to run. So government must be held responsible. The UPND government must be held responsible. The PF government must be held responsible. The MMD government must be held responsible for failing to match the investment and the population. But management also has a very serious role to play. The management has failed, for instance, to account for the money that they get, the money that they use. And we have been calling for a forensic audit at the University of Zambia so that we can audit the management of the University of Zambia. We need to know exactly how they spend the money, no matter how little it is, but they have to account for it. That is not happening. It brings up the issue of how the university, for instance, can produce profit-making ventures within themselves. They have got land, for instance, they have listed out to East Park.
Exactly.
They have got land at Liempe Farm, which they have failed to run. They have got York Farm, which they have failed to run. They have got land in Silver Rest, which they have failed to produce anything on. And you know why? It's because our university education produces employees. It doesn't produce thinkers. It doesn't produce researchers. It doesn't produce developers. It produces employees, people that need to be employed, people that need to report for work from 5 or 9 to 17 hours, knock off and get a salary. So our education system is still archaic. It is not producing thinkers. It is not producing developers. It is not producing innovators. If you go to the University of Zambia or any public university and ask them, what's your budget for research and development? There's literally nothing to talk about in terms of research and development. If you go to school today, when you go to school and you learn so many things, like some of us have been to so many schools, learned so many things, sometimes you start questioning the relevance of the papers you are getting because they don't add value in terms of thinking, innovation, and development. It is copy and paste. For instance, I used to ask my professors when I was doing my master's last year, I was asking them to say, look, what's the point of quoting people that died 50 years ago as a source and as an authority? You mean Lucci cannot be an authority on media? So the only guy who can be an authority is a white man who did media 50 years ago can be an authority on media, and I can quote him in my research paper, but I can't quote Lucci at Radio Phoenix. I can't quote the most abused old man, Mr. Frank Mutubila, as a source, even though he is a guru who has been doing media-related work for the last 50 years. Because our university education doesn't allow you to do that. You have to be quoting some foreign white books as your source of data. What is the source of our primary data? Why are we failing, for instance, to invest in our own medicines? That's why we've got the Sondash formula, which has been there for many years, and yet we are failing to say, okay, as government, we are going to work and partner with Sondashi, so that Sondashi, we give him the necessary amount of money that he needs, the necessary support that he needs to produce the Sondashi formula HIV-related AIDS drugs. We don't do that, but we are quick to partner up, for instance, with an Indian firm to open up the Zambia Pharmaceuticals Company because it's a foreigner. So you can see that we are just failing to make use of what we have as a country. I travel on this road, Greatest Road, every single day of my life as long as I'm in Lusaka. The stench that you get along that area on NRDC and Levi Mwanawasa tells you a story about the sewer system and the water system at Levi Mwanawasa University, Levi Mwanawasa Hospital, as well as NRDC College. The government is not going to move in. They'll be looking at those things until the situation gets out of hand. That's when government will come in. So we lack planning, we lack vision of where we want the country to be in the next 50 years. This is why, for instance, over there, the issue of fuel, we are in a crisis we are in. Can you imagine? We gave away Indeni and turned it into an oil marketing company without giving it money to operate as an oil marketing company. For you to be an oil marketing company, you need to have the money to buy the fuel.
Is it a lack of foresight?
We don't have foresight, we don't have vision, and everything about us is about Kuliamo.
Because you could make the argument that maybe the thinking at the time was there's no war coming. So we don't really need to stockpile.
We even forget that we don't.
That you live in a global village and anything could happen.
Yeah. And that we don't produce oil.
Yeah.
And you see, I was laughing. I heard the Minister Chikote on radio saying they're looking to Tanzania, to Angola to be getting fuel. I said, who is advising the minister? Angola cannot provide Zambia with fuel because Angola themselves don't have the refinery adequate enough to provide fuel for themselves. Angola imports 80% 70 to 80% of the finished fuel. They import fuel. They produce fuel, and they are the third largest producer of fuel in Africa. But they produce crude fuel, which they sell most of it to China. Then the Chinese firms refine it, and Angola imports it back as finished product. So Angola itself depends on imports for survival. 70% of fuel that Angola uses is through importation. They don't have the capacity as a nation themselves to produce finished products. And yet you have a cabinet minister there telling you that we are looking to Angola. But we are looking to Angola to give you fuel when Angola is looking to China to get fuel.
Isn't that something that we've always... It's not just... To be fair, it's not just him who said it.
No, it's not only him. It's fancy. Every politician has said it. I've even heard some come to radio and say, we'll be getting fuel from Angola.
I hear callers say it as well, to say, but why don't we just get fuel from Angola?
It's lack of knowledge of what is going on.
It's an everyone thing.
Angola gets fuel from China.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing that you say.
From Saudi Arabia.
One of our biggest problems...
From China, but from Saudi Arabia.
I remember speaking to Mojave Lungu about this, and he was saying that one of our biggest problems, something that you've highlighted, is not just that there's a plan, but nobody is actually reading what the plan is. So you have, for example, you have this Vision 2030. If I ask many people don't know what's in the Vision 2030.
They don't.
And because nobody knows what's in the Vision 2030, it's these documents that we write, we have conferences about, launch, and then nothing happens.
Yeah. And you know why it is like that? It's because we have made governance to be so cheap. You know, for instance, that we are remaining with 5 months before the general election. I would be proud to say probably we're the only political party, DPP, that is talking about these issues, about the economy, about social welfare and all these things. The majority of the people you host here, I listen to some of the programs they come here to talk about. It's just politics. Okay? Why? It's because we have cheapened the requirement for leadership. For you to be a leader in this country, for instance, let's talk about members of parliament. Today, you'll be lucky, Luchi, to find a member of parliament, an aspiring member of parliament who will be telling you what they want to do for my constituency in Munali and how they will do it. You'll be lucky. Because now what has happened is that we're using people's poverty, we are using people's ignorance as a passport to go to parliament. And that's why the qualification to be a member of parliament is just to have a Christmas tournament and to dish out to my 200 kwacha to the poor women in the markets, to buy beer for the young people at bus stop. And if you can dish out a little bit of money, you can have a Christmas tournament, you can give in some hamper of ka cooking oil, kasoti na kachitenge, then you qualify to be a member of parliament, and everybody will be saying, muntu sana. Ndipo atitandiza ama tiletera soti ama tiletera kabaka sopo ama tiletera cooking oil. So we've reduced what is required of one to aspire for public office, and the media must be called out on this because the media has not helped. I give a lot of stories on issues to do, for instance, with the economy, because that for us is the major thrust. It's about the economy. It's about the people that can't pay rentals, people that don't have transport to go to work, people that work for too little, they can't do anything with it. So our focus is on the economy as DPP. But you see, those stories will never see the headlines. And the media, what it has done is that it will give a lot of coverage to political bickering. So when politician A insults politician B, that will be the news for the whole day. And you can see it, for instance, even in the way on social media, how, for instance, people support or how people oppose on social media. You see that people will support you based on not based on the quality of the things you are saying or whether these things you are saying make sense or not, but based because you are one of them. Either because you come from the same political party, or you come from the same region, or you come from the same tribe. They will oppose you not because what you have said doesn't make sense, but they oppose you because you don't belong to their political party, you don't come from their same region, or you don't come from their same ethnic group. And the politicians are feasting on this because for politicians to thrive, all they need is ignorance and poverty in the masses. And all they need is to come, talk to people and say, Banamayo ninshia 5,000 kwacha, ya Banamayo 5,000 kwacha imisepera. And that is a qualification. You become a member of parliament for the next 5 years. You become a president for the next 5 years because you left a 5,000 kwacha. So the politicians have taken advantage of the people's poverty and the people's lack of information. And this is all they do. And for instance, you have got this crisis, this scandal, for instance, at the police, when it comes to issues of employment. That has been done by the police. They wrote a statement trying to explain, but that statement, Luchi, raised more questions than answers. And I get things like, it's also their time to eat. Those who have been employed, they are Zambians. It's their time to eat. So
but
you see,
it speaks on transparency, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's cheapened
everything. We've cheapened everything to say it's their time to eat. Yeah, it's. For instance, the police in their statement say that the people that they employed are from a recruitment database. Now the question is, the 2023 recruitment database is a mystery. Who controls it? Who controls that database? Who audited the process? Okay, without transparency, this database is nothing but a connection. So you have to be connected for you to be employed.
You said there's something that you said. So a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to the Civil Service Commission chairperson. I think a lot of people may have missed this conversation, but he brought about this database issue. This is now obviously in line with health workers, and I asked him. I said, with technology nowadays, and at the time, obviously, there was this huge conversations about this Imisepela app. It was in the news every single day. I don't know why. But I said to him, why don't you upload that database onto platforms where people can go and check if they're on?
Exactly.
Right? So it's the same with the police. If you claim there's a database, right? Why is it a secret?
Yeah.
Who's on it? Just publish the database and say, these are all the names we picked from these. And everyone stops. Yes. Because at the moment, like you said, unfortunately, it now looks like you've got a database of only people that you know.
Yes.
And
those that are connected in chat. Yes. In fact, the word database has become a new word for connections.
Yes.
So it means that if you're on a database, you're connected. And you see, it's the same thing. In this era and age of technology, one of the things that we are pushing forward a lot, Luchi, is that can we publish these government programs? Can we publish it? This issue of we are just seeing people passing out, seeing people graduating, seeing people passing out to say they were ZNS, they were police, they were army. It was an internal process. It's not acceptable.
But can you understand
public jobs?
But can you understand
money,
why?
Taxpayers
Can you understand why they would claim to be using a database? I mean, if the reason they're giving is the reason they're giving is that listen, and I don't know about the police. I'm not really going to reference the police here. I'm going to reference the Civil Service Commission chairperson because this is what he said. He said we're using a database to recruit health workers because we had so many applications within 2022, 2023, and it feels unfair for us to ask for fresh applications. Let's just use what we've already received, and then we'll deal with the fresh ones at a later point. That, on face value, seems to make sense. Correct? I don't know. Does it make sense? At face value?
At face value, it seems to make sense, but it doesn't, because first of all, what about those who applied before, who have been on the waiting list on this database for the last 10 years? It means they'll never be given an opportunity to be employed. And also, secondly, why settling up for a particular 2022-2023? Why 2022-2023? Why not 2021? Why not 2025? What was the rationale of setting up for the database for 2022 and not the database for 2021? And not the database, for instance, for 2018 or not the database for 2025?
Maybe there was no database. We will never know.
Yeah. So you see, lack of transparency creates problems, and this is just a conduit for corruption. Because where there's no transparency, there's no equity, there's no justice, there's no fairness, and it's a breeding ground for corruption. And it's the same thing that we've been saying, for instance, when it comes to government contracts. If there's a government tender, specifically for issues to do with CDF, if there's a government tender, and even government loans that from IDC, youth empowerment loans, Imisepela app, all these things. What is so difficult, for instance, to say, in this constituency, we've received 40 million kwachas CDF. we have proposed the following projects to be done under CDF. And from these projects, the following companies have applied. These are the specifications, and these are the companies we've selected. And why we selected these companies is because they met the following criteria. And not only stop it at there, but also go to the extent of saying, so company A has been given this contract because they met the following conditions. And when they're doing the work, every quarter, you're supposed to publish the scope of the work is this. So far, they have done 15% of the work. We are moving in accordance with our goal. And at this pace, we know that by 12 months, we'll be done with this project. If you're having problems, why not also publish and say, this project is stalling. And the reason why it is stalling is because we don't have money. The reason why it's stalling is because we don't have the equipment. The reason why it's stalling is because of ABCD. That will make people not ask questions. It's the same with government loans. I've always said, government is quick to say, the people that we've given CDF loans are not paying back. The youths that we gave youth empowerment loans are not paying back. First of all, why would they pay back when they are cadres? They are simply getting from the party they voted for. They're simply getting from the party that is in power. So the first thing also, Ruchi, is to look at skills. There's something that we do in teaching, us who have done teaching. You start from the known to go to the unknown. That's why a child, we don't start telling a child that say uncle, stay auntie. No, the first words of the child will be tata, will be mama, the people around. Then you tell the child, this one is Chantel, this one is Khalil, this one is Romeo. Then now you can go and say, this is Luchi, this is Troy, this is Alec. So you start from the known to the unknown. I've always argued that, look, if you want this government loans to work, first start with, go sector by sector. Let's go to the markets, for instance. We know the women in our market who are working every single day selling different products in the market. Why not start with those? They are already on the market. They are already working. Why not start with the guys on the streets? Mavoko, Magulisa Talk Time, Magulisa Salaula. Why not start with the young people, for instance, that are running some small businesses? They are running a studio. They are running an event center. Why first not identify those sector by sector and say these are already in the field? They will be the first ones that government will give government loans, and they'll be the first ones that government will train, and they'll be the first ones that will be an example to the rest of the young people. Why not go to Mufumbwe and first deal with those that are already on the ground doing the mining before you take people from Lusaka, from Copperbelt, from Livingstone, from wherever to take them to Mufumbwe? Why not start with those that are already on the ground? Because if you give those that are already doing something, the chances of you succeeding is 80% high. But if you're going to get people that are not part of the business and just bring them because they are connected, because they are on the database, because they are connected, the chances of them failing is 80% and high. And this is what we have said, misplaced priorities. You are giving people to run businesses they have no interest in, businesses they are not committed to, businesses they have no business dealing with. It is the same issue of appeasement, the same issue of doing things in a haphazard way. So for us, we believe, Luchi, that first of all, let's identify. If it's mining, twalikwata abaiche Copperbelt abachitama mining, bali kuchimugodi abaiche baba ku dumping site. Why not first sit with those and say, bane natukwatako impia shakumipera, since you are already working? And I always use this name and I always abuse this name. I don't know this gentleman, but I always abuse him. Sparks Mining is one of the people that I know that have been in mining for a very long time. Why is it so difficult, for instance, to sit with people like those and say, Bane, how do we help you, first of all, to grow your company and to help these young people? How have you succeeded? Why you will not succeed? What is it that your other guys can learn from? I always abuse this name, Andrew Kamanga. Andrew Kamanga, the former FAZ president, is an accomplished energy expert. The first director to sit on our energy board. He sat in the energy regulation board. He sat on all these things. He's contributed to policy. But not only that, Andrew Kamanga is running a successful private energy company. Why is it so difficult to sit with Andrew Kamanga and say, Iwe, can you help us? Why have you succeeded here? Why is it so difficult, for instance, to sit with Dangote and ask him why he's running a successful cement company and now a successful oil company? Before you do what you did with Indeni, before you broke Indeni, why not sit down with those that are running successful oil marketing companies and sit with them? Our governments always make decisions without consultation. They make decisions without research. They make decisions based on ignorance. And this is the reason why now we end up with Muri Tuamoneni. We have so many people here. This morning, somebody I was reading on social media and I was saying, why is it that the Rwandese or Rwandese, as they are called, why is it that they are running successful shops? And Zambians are failing to run successful shops. So why is it so difficult to learn the model from Rwanda, how Rwanda is doing it? Yesterday, as I was passing going home, Nagula Misale. This Misale, Vatu cheka, they remove Vikamba. Then they cut them into smaller pieces and they pack them and sell them for 20 kwacha. The guys are selling a Pamanda traffic lights. And I asked the person I was with, Mr. Jolofani. I said, but Jolofani, he says, no, there's a Chinese company that is actually removing Vikamba and cutting these sugarcane pieces into small pieces. It's why don't we, for instance, learn from this?
The value.
They see the value, they make it easy. And we don't want to learn. Yeah. So what we do, we are so quick.
But instead we'll complain.
Yes, we complain. No, the Chinese have taken over. Yes, they're taken over because we ourselves are failing to do it. We are saying the Rwandese have taken over because we are failing to do it.
They'll tell you there's no capital. I think I know this person. This is a guy called Joseph Kalimbo on Twitter. He was making this point as well yesterday to say it's unfair that you have so many guys from Rwanda, from Burundi, in a lot of these townships who've taken over what Zambians should be doing. And at face value, it makes
sense. It's patriotic.
But when you dig deep, you realize that actually there's a reason why.
Let's just get 5,000 kwacha loan, give it to Troy, and get 5,000 kwacha money, give it to Antoina Mulandundwa from Rwanda, and say, here, Troy, this is a 5,000 kwacha, you start a shop, and Antonina, this is the 5,000 kwacha, you start a shop. Antonina will be sleeping in the shop. Those Rwandese, they sleep in the shops. Troy, 5,000 kwacha. He will first change the drink. If he was taking Gordon's, he will go to Bifita. Gordon's is 175. He will go to Bifita, 500 kwacha, lemon shot. Before you know it, Troy will have an extra girlfriend. Before you know it, Troy will change from the sneakers that he's wearing that he got from Salaula. The next thing, he will be getting the same type of sneakers at a shopping mall at Manda Hill, costing 3,000 kwacha. It goes back to the issue of attitude also has to change. We need to work on that attitude. Somebody asked, my wife always asks, Nangama Chinese bakwanisa banje. Do you know that they come here and they know they came here to make money? They sleep in those shops. They don't play around. They sleep in those shops because they are here to make money, but also because they're coming from countries where laziness is not rewarded, connections and database doesn't work. They come from countries where corruption is not tolerated. You involve yourself in corruption, in misapplication of public resources, you are doomed. You are jailed, you are executed. They come from societies that don't mess with public resources. And they come from societies that have long-term vision of what they want to achieve. Now here we are. We've got political parties in power. Ask them, what's your 10-year plan on health? It's not there. You have seen now the challenge that we are facing with the children and cell phones in schools, and the challenge we are facing with the discipline in schools is because human rights. You cannot rebuke a child. You cannot do this to a child. The child has a right to do what they want. And here we are. We have children threatening to beat teachers. We have children insulting teachers. And all of us are up in arms. Why? It's because we're just copying cultures and bringing them back. There's a reason why Kaunda was pushing for humanism, because it was defining us who we are as Ubuntu. There's a reason why we have the Zambian culture, which we need to cherish. Today, it is gone. I was just talking about, for instance, weddings. Simple things that show you where the challenges have gone. Weddings today, they have gone completely Western. I have colleagues that have helped with these wedding committees. Muntu arched a wedding, white wedding, but he doesn't even have money to pay the rentals for the first 2 months after he weds that woman. But he would rather go for a white wedding instead of just going to civic center, Mwankala babiri mwalembe sana, Mary nakukonda, Mandala nakukonda. You sign that. It's a small thing, ceremony that will cost you less than 3,000 kwacha, and you come back home and you start a home. No, we have to do it the right way. So we need to have the wedding dress, and people have to pay for the wedding dress. We need to have a fleet of cars that should be on the lineup, and people have to pay for those cars. We have to have this huge venue and bring 100 people that we don't even talk to, because everybody has to see us that na tu panat wedding. So again, it is about vocopa. I have seen the same problems. For instance, when we go to, I always say this, I'm a DJ. I see it in the clubs where I play music from. Look, it's very easy to get, you are 4 of you, you put 25, 50 kwacha each, and you buy bottle, cha Gordons. You sit down, you chill. You drink, you come to the club. Each one of you has 1 castle, 1 mosi. After 2 hours, you leave. It's as simple as that. Yeah. But we don't want to do that. So we need everybody to know that this is who are making it. It's the attitude. That's why you have people running for public office who are in court. And we have no problem with that. They are in court for crimes of stealing public resources, of misapplying public resources. And we have no problem with that. Because our attitude, it's okay. Yeah. That's so we need to work with the attitude and change the attitude and make us realize, for instance, that what makes you productive is not the number of papers that you have. It is the value that you add based on the papers that you have obtained. Education, for instance, I'm a teacher myself by profession. I've seen lecturers, for instance, who take pride in failing students, and they think they're smart because they fail students. That is not education. Education is to make sure that your students understand what you're teaching them and they can apply them in real life. But that is not happening. So a lecturer who is failing his student is seen as mukali sana because he fails his students. It's the attitude. It's the same thing we have, for instance, on social media. I have never seen a situation now. I was talking to my wife yesterday. I said, let's look at celebrities that we have. There's social media celebrities in Zambia. There's majority of the social media celebrities in Zambia as a result because they were insulting this social media personality, was insulting this social media personality, then they become big. It's because this social media personality was boasting about the money he has, and this other social media personality was boasting about the money they have, and they become big. Now, take for instance Ice Speed Show. I didn't even know this guy until he came to Zambia. He's got 50 million plus viewers, 50 million plus followers. How does he make his content? His content is not based on insulting people. His content is not based on being controversial. His content is based on imagination. He comes up with the antics that people watch and clap for, and he makes money out of that. For us, you need to be insulting people for you to become famous on social media. For us, you need to be demeaning people for you to become famous on social media. I'm one of the people that have refused, for instance, to invest a lot in boosting and growing my page through algorithms. I'd rather have my page grow organically, because if I want, for instance, today to go viral, I just have to post one silly thing and I'll go viral. Yeah. This is how cheap. So it's the attitude. Yeah. The simple things, the silly things become the big things that all of us are going to be discussing.
Yeah. Okay, I need to take a little break. If you just switched on your radio, our guest this morning is Antonio Mourinho Mwanza. He's the president of the Democratic Progressive Party. We'll come back after the break. We'll take phone calls. If you want to call us, 226-841. If you want to send a text message, I can see a lot of text messages. There's one I want to read from Richard before we take this break. Richard says, UNZA does produce planners and thinkers, but the problem is that many of those who have passed through this university have run to politics. All they think and plan is how to become a leader of this country. So energy is wasted on politics. That's from Richard. You can respond
very quick after
the news.
Okay,
you can respond after the news.
Thank you.
At 10.
Phoenix FM 89.3 the Copperbelt. The community news is brought to you with the compliments of National Milling Corporation. National Milling Corporation, Zambia's pride nationwide.
The headlines: Chisamba man gets a suspended sentence for trespass, and 340 Lavushimanda flood victims receive relief food. With the community news, I am Paddy Mugando. The Chisamba magistrate has convicted and sentenced a 31-year-old resident of Chivombo district to 3 months imprisonment for criminal trespass, wholly suspended for 1 year. Resident Magistrate Susan Magalashi has sentenced Boas Matipula of Chivombo's Mwachisompola area after he pleaded guilty to the charge. Appearing in court, Matipula faced 1 count of criminal trespass, and the court heard that on the 1st of April 2026, Matipula unlawfully entered the Zambi farm premises with the intent to commit a felony. Testifying under cross-examination, the accused claimed intoxication led to a blackout, denying knowledge of how he entered the farm. The suspect was apprehended and taken to Chisamba police station after being found inside a secured, locked farm. The Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, has distributed relief food to 340 flood victims affected during the 2025-2026 rainy season in Lavushimanda district in Muchinga province. The relief package includes 165 by 50 kilogram bags of white rice, 66 by 50 kilogram bags of yellow split peas, and 22 by 1 liter bottles of cooking oil. Speaking during the distribution exercise in Mupamadzi ward, Lavushimanda District Commissioner Terry Skunda urged beneficiaries to refrain from reselling the food items and instead use them for household consumption. Mr. Kunda noted that the commodities were procured at a high cost and warned that selling them cheaply undermines government efforts of aiding flood victims. Meanwhile, Mfuwe Member of Parliament Malama Mufunelo said residents of Kamwendo area continue to face food shortages due to persistent human-animal conflicts and will greatly benefit from the relief support. To end the community news, the headlines once again. Chisamba man gets suspended sentence for trespass, and 340 Lavushimanda flood victims receive relief food. Ends the community news. Keep listening to Let the People Talk.
The community news was brought to you with the compliments of National Milling Corporation. National Milling Corporation, Zambia's pride nationwide.
Mdala na mverati mzimai wapaka ntemba avuta.
Uvuta cha?
Ati vantu vachitu tantama mdala. Vinangu vachitu pakinga mamotoka. Na mataipa mkosi sofu.
Wavuta na chia ni mzimai.
Vitubuwa vamene. Vanzake monga siwa lipo ka? Ininona monga ni mankwala. Vogwila vachiboy. Ndava vachilamo.
Imwe boza. Simu nkwala iyai.
Manje ni vicha?
Ni vitumbua flour mix yaba National Milling Corporation. Vichoka. Flour yokonzeka kudala. Ni kufaka machebe manzi na isti pasi wa frying.
Vitumbua flour mix. Ndi flour. Osaganiza kare. Kwa inu. Ndi kungo frying achabe musavuta. Vitumbua flour mix. Waso pano. Apezeka mumatumba a 10 kgs kuchokela ku abwenzi anu anta uzonse. Awa ndi a National Milling Corporation. National Milling Corporation. Zambia's pride nationwide.
Phoenix FM. Channel 915 on DSTV.
It's 10:09. Welcome back to Let the People Talk. I left our guest this morning, Antonio Mourinho Mwanza, who is the president of the Democratic Progressive Party, a question before the break from Richard about how the university produces planners and thinkers. But unfortunately, many of these planners, these thinkers, end up running to politics.
So there's what we call brain drain, and the University of Zambia is one of those that have suffered a lot of brain drain over the years. Because remember, we talked about the remunerations, because people only work where their skills, their knowledge is being appreciated. So if you are going to be a medical doctor in Zambia and you're getting a 20,000 kwacha in an economy where you need 12,500 to feed your family, you know what you do? You'd rather go to UK as a medical doctor, qualified medical doctor, and start wiping old people's bums for 3 times what you are getting in Zambia. So we are suffering brain drain because we don't appreciate talent and we don't appreciate skills. And that's why people leave to go into the private sector. They leave to go to other jurisdictions because there they are appreciated. So we need also to appreciate skills, knowledge, and the value that people bring to the table. We don't do that. So brain drain is one of the biggest problems because the conditions of service for the same work, for instance, go to any major mining company in Zambia today, any major mining company working in Zambia today, Our engineers, our geologists that are working for these companies are getting 3 times less than the same qualifications that the so-called expatriate mining workers have. A guy who comes from Switzerland, for instance, to sit in Zambia doing the same work with a guy who comes from Chirupurukusu, same qualifications, same work in the mining sector. The guy from Zambia is getting 3 times less than the guy who came from Switzerland. So we don't appreciate value, we don't appreciate talent, we don't appreciate knowledge. So people have to go where they're supposed to be. And you see, this again brings me back to the haphazardness of the way we do things. Remember that government just announced the suspension of VAT and import duty on fuel. And on face value, everybody was praising the government. I said they have done very well. First of all, Luchi, look at how it was done. First, government increased the fuel prices. They increased with the biggest margin I've seen, 6 kwacha for diesel. They increased today fuel prices. Tomorrow they say we have removed VAT and import duty. If you really want to cushion the workers, you want to cushion the poor people of Zambia, you want to cushion the taxi drivers, Yango drivers, bus drivers, and you want to cushion them from the high cost of fuel, why increase it by 6 kwacha on Friday and remove VAT and import duty on Saturday? It doesn't make sense, because there will be any trickle-down effect. Now, I listened to one gentleman from the Energy Regulation Board, ERB. He says Zambia is likely to lose $61 million because of the suspension on VAT and import duty on fuel. The question is, who is a beneficiary from this $61 million? It's the oil marketing companies. Who are these oil marketing companies? These are private companies owned by private individuals, and some of them actually owned by foreigners. So where is the bulk of the $61 million going? Into the pockets of foreigners, into the pockets of private hands. Then if this $61 million you are losing, it is not trickling down to the consumer at the pump, how are you then going to guarantee that you will reduce the cost of fuel this month end? It will not come down. What they're likely to say is, no, now they have an excuse. All you have to do is Iran. It's like Mamuna.
But it's not an excuse, it's a fact.
No, it's a fact to an extent of lack of preparation for the future, because we don't have storage facilities. We don't buy in bulk in advance, because we need to be buying fuel at least 6 months in advance and have it in bulk. I was even, again, the Minister of Energy is my target here, because I heard him and his people at ERB talking about we have these 20 Chakuti days of fuel cover. They were even counting fuel, Luchi, which is on transit, in transit. I come from Chipata, Luchi, we say kakonkali manja. You are counting nkuku zamezi karibu badwa, and you say we have got 10 chickens because you have got 10 eggs. You can't count fuel which is in transit as part of the fuel stock, strategic fuel stock, because that fuel is in transit. Anything can happen. It might not even reach. And even if it reaches, it might not reach on time. So we need to be focusing on, okay, in terms of fuel, can we have bulk buying of fuel? Can we have at least 4 months cover of fuel, so that whatever happens at the international market, whether the dollar comes down, whether the fuel prices at the international market goes up, we will not be affected as a people. We don't plan like that. So the $61 million, which is gone through the wind, VAT removed, suspended, import duty suspended. Who is benefiting? The private hands. Are the people of Zambia benefiting? No. Will it reflect on the pump price this month end? No, it will not reflect. Will it reduce the cost of fuel? No, it will not reduce the cost of fuel. I've heard a cabinet minister, Commerce, Vachipoka, and also my dear elder sister, the Deputy Secretary General for UPND, saying, no, the inflation rate is now 7.5%. Reduce the prices of goods. And I say, no, it doesn't work like that. This inflation which you are seeing, 7.5%, is not the rate at which goods will be reduced. Now, it's the rate at which the prices will be increasing. It will now be increasing at 7.5% and not reducing by 7.5%. So you can see clearly that there's also a lack of understanding of how these things work. I've heard, for instance, that we have done very well. We're now in positives, projected 4.5% to 5.2% GDP growth. The question, Luch, you have to ask yourself is who is benefiting from that GDP? We produced 820,000 metric tons of copper. That translates to $7.6 billion at today's rate. The question you have to ask yourself is how much of the $7.6 billion came to Zambia? Is 15% or less of it? The rest went to the foreign countries who owns these mines, who control these mines, who have the monopoly over these mines. We talk about construction, it's the same thing. Every major construction in this country is being done by foreigners. Even just Mabloko. All these companies, you can go through Greatest Road, you find companies that make blocks, building blocks. They are owned by foreigners. Our own football here in this country, our own football that we play at Nkana, at Power, you can't watch it on TV because the Zambian TV houses don't have the money to televise those games. You have to go to South Africa and ask DSTV, a foreign company, to televise your own football. This is how bad it is. So you know what Zambians have become? We've just been reduced to be workers, just employees. That's the only role we play. And where do we go wrong? Again, we can't consult. So Luchi has years of experience. I'm going into an election cycle. I want to be president of this country. I'm reaching out to Luchi and say, can you help me craft my media strategy? Because you are experienced. But no, we will not do that. We'll just have because so this one is going to be the one taking my photos. So everything is just cheap. President, you can become a president just based on your religion, based on your tribe, and you can become a president. No one will even ask you to say, vote. And I was listening to the president the other day. He was talking about there will be a university in every province. I said, Mr. President, you've been a president for 5 years. You failed to build one university for 5 years. One, not two, just one. You failed. One. So the next 10 will come from where? Yes, and let's go back to our budget for education. It's less than 12%. Less than 12%. So where is the money going to come from? So we say all these things, and you see, we are going into the election now. The winning formula for the UPND is sort sana. Chapwa, kulanda vya sort sana. Ndiye campaign message. The other camp, what's the campaign message? Oh, batita mingalato, wanatupoka pati. It's just basic. There's nothing like, okay, so what are we going to do in agriculture? What are we going to do in health? What are we going to do? No, our elections have been reduced to just names. You can just shout it. Now I've seen some relatives of mine from the opposition trying to copy Sot Sana. They're now saying Sugar Sana. And what I say, so the election, it will be based on slogans. Okay, it will not be based on the 9 million young people that don't have jobs and how are we going to create an environment that can give them jobs. It is not going to be based on 108,000 teachers who are qualified and they're on the streets and we can't give them jobs. It will not be based on hundreds of thousands of young people that are working today and Bafola 15, 25, how do we improve their living standard? It is not going to be based on this young lady who is running an agro firm, trying to provide fertilizer, trying to provide seed and chemicals, and yet she only gets 20 kwacha per every bag of fertilizer that she supplies. And she doesn't have any capital because she doesn't have the collateral to get a loan. It will not be based on the thousands of doctors that are qualified and cannot be employed. It will not be based on the potential we have in agriculture to produce the goods that we need, our own milk, our own bacon, our own beef, to create industries. It will not be based on that. It will be based on Sot Sana and Mingalato. So you see the campaign.
There's a question. There's a question on our WhatsApp line. Just before I go to the phone lines, there's a question on our WhatsApp line asking about the police recruitment, saying, is it too late to halt the process?
It is not, but you see, the police are being very defensive. And last time I was here, Luchi, I did mention that the president must pay attention to people who claim to be doing things in his name when they're doing wrong things. And one of the things that I've seen is that many people will do wrong things in the name of the president, trying to please the president, but they're actually jeopardizing the popularity of the president. And the president, as commander-in-chief, of the armed forces, who is also in charge over the Zambia Police Service, must put his foot down and say this process must be halted, it must be reversed, and a normal process where it will be transparent, accountable, open to everybody, and competitive must be employed in the recruitment of our police. The president must do that. The IG will not do that, because the IG in his head, he believes is doing the president a favor, and he believes he's being a good boy to the president. That is how presidents have lost power, because these people doing wrong things in the name of the presidents are the ones who cost the president dearly. And it is up to the president to pay attention to what the people are saying. I know the president loves social media. I know he follows what people are saying on social media. As commander-in-chief, he has to put his foot down and say this must be halted, must be reversed, and we go back to transparency. How were people qualified to be on that database? Why the 2022 database? Why not the 2018 database? Why not the 2025 database? What was the criteria, the rationale about employing these people who qualified and who didn't qualify? And why not advertise? You know, sometimes when you're doing wrong things, at least show that you are inclusive. Try to do the right thing. It's the same thing that we do in our homes. Sometimes you want the madam to believe that she's the one making decisions. So you say, baby, nina one pin yani nayo, nifuna uguleko nsomba, pa Zambi ifagusa nsomba za mushe 150, na kaunga 320, then uguleko tuchomoli na tumabanzi. You are the one who has given the list of the things your madam must shop on. Then you send the 1,000 kwacha to Airtel money. When she gets it, she believes, and he gives me the latitude to go and shop. So she will go to the shop and buy exactly what you have told her. Sometimes let us just appear like
the state secret.
We're inclusive, you know.
All the husbands are now in trouble. All right,
so on a very serious note, the president must pay particular attention to this issue and many other issues, because these people are not helping him. They are making him unpopular.
Okay, let me go to the phone lines. I know a lot of people want to talk to you this morning. 226-841-0978-895-895. Hello, good morning.
Yes, morning.
Good morning. Okay, hi, what's your name?
Lukulu Voice on the line here.
Yes, Lukulu Voice.
Thank you very much.
Please ask a question. Let's try and be as brief as possible, okay?
Yeah, the question to him, how are you, first of all? I think, are you trying to intimidate me or what?
No, I'm just asking you to just be brief.
I've been observing this. I think it's not right. First of all, how are you, Mr. Anton Mwanza?
I'm very fine, Lukulu Voice. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Thank you very much. First of all, my question is, looking at President Hakainde Hichilema's leadership from 2021, whereby he found the country, the economy was destroyed. He has managed to do the restructuring, has managed to do free education from grade 1 to grade 12, and meal allowance returned to where it belongs. He has managed to recruit in numbers. So, only 4 years to 5 years. What of when we give him 10 years, 20 years, what happened in this country? He has managed to open the minds that were closed.
Wait, did you say 10? Did you say 20 years? Or that was a mistake?
What will happen? If he can do this within 4 years, what of when he's given 20 years, what will happen? Is that not good development? Is that not good leadership we've been looking for a long time now? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Lukul. I don't know if he realizes that he said 20 years, which is unconstitutional, but it is what it is. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your name, sir?
Mr. Ntere, Antonio Mwakatiani.
Tauka mkwasu Mwakatiani.
Kukamba Ntere, I know some people mapanga mistake palanti kukamba Tiani like the previous my good brother was. Now, quick one. Mkwasu. I know me, I prefer Kasenengo as a big constituency. Now, the issue of delimitation, do you think it worked by this time? Because we haven't even seen that, no, Chipalamba constituency or Kasenengwa or Lusaka has been eliminated. These people, they have got so Kapenani, Kasenengwa East and so on. Now, Antonio, do you think this election, as you can see, are we going to have a fair election? Because you have seen, they were saying there's Lotto Mingalato and so on. They were seated there. Do you think we should have proper election, fair election? So can you discuss the issue of delimitation, how we're going to do? Because there are a few months to go. I don't know where we're heading now. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Ntele. And thank you for being brief as well. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Lucy.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Joseph Mzungu from Vida. Good morning, Mr. Antonio Mwanza.
Morning, sir.
Let me say this. The disabled, in Kaunda's days, Kaunda was bringing the disabled closer to the politics arena. Now I'm blaming you, the new politicians. You are not showing up to the disabled. I mean that when you are coming to the program, you should bring one disabled also, so that we can talk, so that we can feel better as the disabled. That's my plea. Thank you very much, Mr. Antonio Mwanza.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Yes, Tauka Mauka.
Bruno Bunch, boss. What's your name?
Nibashmat.
Yes, Bashmak, go ahead.
Mwakatiani Antonio Mwanza.
Tauka mwakatiani mkwaso.
Baja pachi pali wa Mwanza wampali baja. Ya bamudala pachi kakuja kwa ochokela. Kulipanga kamba nifole na Mwanza. Hizi wapo wa mdala baja wachenjeresa baja watate wako wampali wa Mwanza. Yeah. To come to the issues, you know, let us go spade by spade. I don't think that in Gawalanda to what came from. This is our country. We need to speak out, and if something not going wrong, we need to tell that. Even in my father, I can tell him that, father, the way you are going, I'm your son. I'm a firstborn, but going this way. No more atamana afuma mwifesa ya mchuri. No mwana apulumusha with pansoka. That is choka hiyo atum. So there is no way. Everything goes by advice. Manon shimbulwa I do not fukubuko. So we need to be advised. When no matter, school doesn't not end. School will end every day. Even my young child can teach me. So that's what we are talking here. Yeah. In politics does not end in future planning. So what I'm saying is that also you, Antonio Mwanza, you come into political arena, should learn to what politician. I know that you was in FDD as a secretary. You came in PF as a deputy secretary, and now you form your political party. That you have experience in politics. But what he has said, what is going wrong, we should talk about it.
Okay. All right. Morgan, thank you very much, Mr. Morgan. Hello, good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning. Morning. What's your name?
Antonio Morino Mwanza. Mwakatiani mkwaso.
Tauka mwakatiani mkwaso.
Nanguni kuchembara kuchingola. Antonio, you spoke in my mind. Subsidy abayupendi. We are subsidizing, but things are going up. But Mtengolinu, what kind of subsidy is this? We subsidize to cushion the suffering of Zambians. But by UPND, we subsidize the fuel. But fuel in there, Pamamba, agro fuel is benefiting. What kind of subsidy is this, Mr. Mwanza? Please, Mr. Mwanza, speak on our behalf. The UPND, are they seeing from what? Company tax, they reduced from 35% to 30%. It is not staying. But withholding tax, they increased from 60% to 20%. What is wrong with the UPND? It's time for UPND to pack and go. I thank you, Mr. Mwanza. Are you going to be in any alliance? Mr. Mwanza, why can't you join others to form the opposition? I thank you.
Okay, Douglas, thank you very much. Do you want to respond, and then I'll go back to someone else?
Yeah, let me be very quick so we can allow more people. So we need targeted subsidies that benefit the poor Zambians and not that benefit the same rich multinationals. And this also goes even to the issues of electricity. When we had the emergency tariffs, the ones that are benefiting from the emergency tariffs is not us, the poor Zambian people, it's the same multinationals. the mining sector that is using over 53% of our electricity. They're the ones that are benefiting from all those. I was giving an example of the $61 million we're losing, and yet that money is not trickling down to the pump price to help a younger driver, a taxi driver, a bus driver. So it is again the problem of planning. We need to be cutting taxes and reducing the levies and cancelling some of these duplications. You need compliance requirements are too many that a small and medium enterprise has to reach. You have to go to Zema, you have to go to, depending on your work that you do, you have to go to Zema, ZRA, NAPSA, so many council, there are so many compliance requirements that we are asking our poor, small and medium enterprises. We need to remove those because they're becoming a serious expense on our small and medium enterprises. And we need to establish our own financial systems and financial institutions that provide loans to our own SMEs. That's how China is doing it. That's how European Union is doing it. That's how America is doing it. And that's how every developed country is doing it. On the issue of alliances, I think we've spoken very clearly as a party. We have been talking to almost everybody. I think the only people we have not talked to are UPND. A number of our major opposition colleagues who have had serious discussions. And we have made it very clear, Luchi, we will go into an alliance that has a clear economic agenda for Zambia. These alliances of just ukwakanefpuna, so we win, we share positions, it will not help you, Banguni. It will not help my brothers in the village who need water, who need access to electricity, and who need access to medical service. We need an alliance that is clearly defined by the solutions to the major problems we face: youth unemployment, the major problem we face in the cost of doing business, cost of living. That alliance must be based on those benchmarks, because if you have an alliance that has a clear economic agenda, you know that in the next 5 years it will be a different story. But if it's an alliance where Antonio Mwanza is going to be chosen as a cabinet minister, it will benefit me and my children. It will not benefit you. So yes, we're having alliances, but we will only join an alliance that is based on a clear economic agenda. I like what I don't know, he said Vashmak. I don't know if it's a Shimag or Vashmak. Yes, you know, the challenge that we have had in our politics is that every time that you speak freely, you are considered as an enemy. Like our leaders have been conditioned to praise singing, that all we need to do as their followers or their competitors is to praise them. That every time you say something that doesn't please those in power, you become an enemy. That should not be the case, because we are over 30 years in multi-party democracy, and in a multi-party democracy, people must accept divergent views. Mr. Ntele talked about delimitation. It's the same problem of lack of planning. In 2021, when the UPND were campaigning, amongst their campaign promises was constitutional reforms. It was part of the 10-point plan. And I expected that President Hakainde Hichilema will embark on constitutional amendments the first year he formed government, or later, second year that he formed government. He waited until late, months before a general election. When you wait that long, the timing also is critical in politics. You send the wrong signal, and people start believing you're trying to change the constitution to suit yourself. And I've heard, for instance, UPND members who are saying that they want the presidential limit to be removed. And I've heard the Attorney General saying that there will be constitutional amendments after 2026 general elections. My simple advice to the president is that those that have tried to go for a third term have failed. Chilua was a master dribbler, confessed by himself. Zambians don't want a third term. So if there's anyone thinking that a third term will be allowed, it's wishful thinking. But I know that sometimes Bakandile say these things to please the president, to be seen to be the ones who defend the president, who are loyal, because that's what we say. So when you're defending the president, you are loyal. And when you say that, you say, so there are a lot of people that will whisper to you, Mr. President, and tell you go for a third term. No, sir, don't. It's a no-go area, the third term issue. Don't even try it. It will not succeed. Don't listen to those that are trying to please you. It will not work. And because of lack of planning, we have resulted into this process where the Electoral Commission of Zambia now is under immense pressure. The ECZ have to ensure that Parliament passes the Electoral Process Act in line with the amendments we have made to the Constitution in terms of now having a mixed member proportional representation. If we started these processes earlier enough, by now we could have finished the issue of the Electoral Process Amendment. If we started this process earlier, by now we could have finished the issue of delimitation. But because we don't plan beyond 3 months and beyond today, we find ourselves now where government, for instance, has brought I don't know how many bills. I was just seeing a number of bills that government wants Parliament to approve within the next 3 months. You cannot.
Although if you went through them, they look like just housekeeping.
Yeah,
it's just issues to do with boards and composition of many of these. Although
and you ask yourself, where were they the last 4 years? They could have done this in the last 4 years. So it is the lack of planning. We need to plan for 50 years, 100 years from now, and not just do things on the mark. They ask the issue of free and fair election. Yeah. So I've told people, an election is a process, it's not an event. Whether the election will be free and fair depends on how the process of democracy, constitutionalism, and campaigning has been since 2021 to date. Because as it is right now, we know that in the last 4 years, very few people have been allowed to have public rallies. The police by practice have banned public rallies. By practice, they have banned public rallies. So that is not fair. We know, for instance, that you cannot have free and fair election when the public media is skewed towards the ruling party and they only cover the opposition political party in a negative way. Again, you cannot guarantee free and fair elections, for instance, when the recruitment of the police officers who are instrumental to the election process is being questionable. Again, you have teachers who are instrumental in supervising elections are openly endorsing the president, and there is no ramification for doing that. So free and fair elections will only happen if we meet the necessary steps of ensuring free access to people, freedom of speech, and freedom after speech. That's the only way we can have free elections. Balukule with Balukulu Voice, you see, our challenge, Balukulu Voice, is not a meal allowance, which is 25 kwacha per day. Okay, a student at University of Zambia gets 25 kwacha per day as meal allowance. Okay, I don't know whether 25 kwacha per day can buy you breakfast, supper, lunch. I don't know whether you can survive in 25 kwacha. It's not about meal allowance, and this is what I've said. One of the reasons why we are failing to improve as a country is because we're looking at things in a very small way. We should be focusing on the 4.7 million Zambians that have no access to clean water and proper sanitation. We should be focusing on the 9 million young people that have no jobs. We should be focusing on the 1 million Zambians that get 1,500 and 2,500 kwacha as a salary. When we talk about the mines, let's not talk about the mines. The ones who are benefiting from the mines are the foreign companies, period. Zambia is not benefiting. It's as simple as that. So, lastly, Baluchi, let me just say this before you close. We need to stop this notion that a foreign investor would develop this country. We need to stop that notion. The only people that will develop Zambia are Zambians, not foreigners.
Yeah. Let me take another 5 calls. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your name, sir?
This is Michelle calling you from Ndora Mshirika.
Yes, Michelle. Very briefly as well.
Tuli wino ba Misheke mulishani kundola.
Ifwe nsala mu kyalo kyesu kuli ababa UPA ngi balirete nsala mu kyalo kyesu. Nomba FMD4 okulandako byashiri aba UPA ngi efo okutira ba UPA ngi ekyo mu kitafyonse mule ekibati Zambia yalitekwa politika problem ngefyo mulela ndabantu mu Mwanza obu buteko bumona ko ati FSC government yabapo mu kyalo kyesu kya Zambia. They don't think that kwali pobute amabuteko kono mochi ikishonse mingala to bachita ifyonse bachita bali byali pitwamo na kabiri mu government so number I don't know nga bakitira bene beshiba to if we stretch and perfect because pona ishire mwena tati na ba president balaba bepo ni ili ashiri atike kuchingola lyamabu pona ishiremu na kutila kishinka ba president and ba president nga kishinka nga bala monati abantu n'abanagenda bifya tike kuchingola nga tafya tike because that is a sign kutila abantu balambe pobu bala bebe fintu fishiri background ba kuchingola kutandaliza abantu bankutali zoti in other way there is something there is a problem there mama nomba ubuteko inofona ishiba uwa UPND tabomfa kulifo kwebe na zambi because ngabalomfa kulifo kwebe na zambi ngabala chinja kofi mwefintofi imwa kutragabani cyane nomba goodness the quarter my election in 13 August they will see that akansha bena Zambia if you balenjeba ni muri nomba kaidi bena babirivire mu mingalato isho bayene beshibe mingalato tashibomba.
Mishak, is there a question?
Finally the question is what advice can you give by UPNG ya kutila isho mingalato tashibomba?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mishak. 226-841-0978-895-895. Lost you on this line. 226-841-0978-895-895. Hello, good morning. Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. What's your name?
My name is Vashimpundu.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Antonio Mushani Wakalamba.
Kanabesa balishani mkwai.
Ndita mkwai. Antonio mulela ndabwino sana kabili cha kutinda wamfa watino kuti he is the president. Nomba apo chikosela when you come into government you start governing. Nipe samwe bantu. Why should Zambia continue wallowing in poverty even after 60 we are now 60 years. We are still in poverty. When you go into this government, running this government, why do you like you politicians disappointing us? Because, whoever came into government, people had the hope, if it's Fiala Londoloka, if it's Fiala Babuino, alas, it goes into something. We want a president who will come into power and not running around the IMF to go and borrow money. Surely Zambia has got a lot of resources that can be utilized properly and put into good use. From what I know, we can even pay them off into a month or so. We have Antonio Mwanza, you know very well. You spoke about last time. You spoke about Sujilite. You spoke about God. You spoke about a lot of minerals, which can surely, if we utilized properly, we can't be talking of in Congole. Surely, I heard at one time, you see, there was a strike for one of the mines. And here is a CEO coming out and he spoke of losing billions of money in a single day. Billions in one single day. If that money surely can be gathered together and utilized properly by Antonio Mwanza, can we be talking of Ngongole sure? Why? However,
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Let's see if we can get another couple more calls before we finish off. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Maruchi. Morning, Antonio Mwanza.
Morning, sir.
What's your name?
My name is Collins.
Go ahead, Collins.
I think my take is just the same like the previous caller. Surely the Antonio Mwanza we've heard today and the Antonio Mwanza we were hearing during PF, they are two different people. Where is it so difficult? They are two different people. Where is it so difficult, honestly? Those nice, brilliant ideas you are saying, why weren't you saying them during the PF time? Because all we could just listen during the PF was just praise singing also, Mr. Antonio Mwanza. No wonder this country will never go forward because you politicians, once you get to the corridors of power, all you think is just that appeasement of yourselves and those people that are on top of you. That's why normally we've seen that even people now have stopped. Some of them, they're even leaving their formal employment to join politics because it looks like now politics has become a source of living. If you want to get rich quicker, just join politics. No wonder this country will continue lagging behind. Look at even the portals we have right now. This the same way you are sounding, Mr. Antonio. This is how even the UPND were sounding when they were in opposition. What is the problem for sure? Just like the previous caller asked, where do you guys go wrong whenever you come into power? Because even the time you are in power, Mr. Antonio, you never used to talk the way you are talking.
Yeah. Listen, thank you very much. 226410978895895 if you'd like to call us. Antonio, do you want to... Let me take one last one. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Victor Sakala, calling you from Garden.
Okay, go ahead, Victor.
Yeah, so my question is, how are you going to help us, us, the youth who has never been to school? Because I've just seen that every day the government are just focusing on the people that have been to school. But if you go around, we do have junkies and so on. So do you have any plans for us, youth? So that's my question. Even here in Garden, we have got no any developmental project. So I don't know how we are going to help us as a community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Victor. Do you want to respond very quickly?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what I like. We are having a conversation with the Zambian people, and that's exactly what we need. Let me start with Victor Sakala. That's why we said we need to audit our people, sector by sector. That's why we need to devolve governance systems so that decisions can be made at a ward level. And the government has to identify. For instance, the issue of junkies is a symptom. It is not the problem. It is a symptom of a problem of lack of employment, lack of morals, and the breakdown in families. Some of these things, they appear to be so unconnected, but they are connected. A healthy nation produces a health family. Health families produces health nation. Strong families produces strong nations. Baluch, if you go to court today, marriages are dissolving every single day at alarming rates. Last year alone, we had 31,000 divorces. The majority of these divorces as a result of financial challenges. Men are failing to provide for their families. They are going into depression. We are getting reports from Chinama that the rate of mental health illnesses now has tripled in terms of the cases that are being reported to Chinama. It's the pressure that the men are going through. Why? It's because the economy is failing. We are failing to provide for our families. Families are breaking down. Morality is breaking down. Do you know, Akale, you couldn't compete drinking with a woman. Now married women have taken over, some married women have taken over clubs. You know, Akalema clubs, it was Kapenta Milomo. Those are the people that really used to frequent clubs. But today, even married men, married women, they have just taken over. Why? Because of sometimes stress, and people are trying to let off that stress. If we don't fix the economy, we can't fix this country. Because we can't fix broken families, we can't fix this country. We need to focus on the youths and categories. 70% of the young people might not have the formal education up to university. And many of them might not have an opportunity to have any skill. So we need to identify those who don't have skills. That's why our program is simple. In agriculture, for instance, how do we go to Eastern Province and identify the hundreds of thousands of young people that have never been to school, those that have been to school that are not doing anything, and set up state-owned farms to produce cotton, to produce beans, soya beans, sunflower. We need to have those state-owned companies that are producing en mass production. Set up industries to produce finished products. There are a lot of young people, for instance, today who have gone into chicken rearing, and yet we are importing Millions of dollars are spent every single month, importing chickens, importing eggs, importing bacon, and importing milk. Why don't we focus to say we need young people that have never been to school, but they've got the energy, they've got the drive, identify them, mobilize them, and put them in state-run institutions, and also cooperate with the private sector and set up these massive investments and massive industries. That's what we're going to do to help the young people that have not been to school. Or they have been to school, but they don't have a job. I need to answer by Collins, and this is a very honest conversation. Antonio, you sound very different from the Antonio of PF. I'm happy, I'm glad I sound different, because I didn't want to sound like PF. Because I'm not PF. And I didn't want to sound like that Antonio was a media director in PF, because I'm not a media director, I'm a president of a political party. So I'm glad that I sound different. This means there's growth. And like scripture says, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11, it says, when I was a child, I used to speak like a child. I'm a man, I speak like a man. So I'm glad that there's growth. Let me say this. I cannot be held responsible for anything, for things that went wrong under PF, because I was not the president of PF, I was not the president of Zambia, I was not even in government, and that responsibility goes to those that were leading. It doesn't come to me. It goes to those that were leading. Appeasement and politics has become lucrative. Yes, because we've made it so ourselves. We have made it so that you can go to politics and make money, because what we have done is that we expect politicians to give you gifts. These politicians that are spending money, throwing money around, making donations, even people that never used to make donations to churches, are now leading donators to churches. And we see it as normal, because today they're in power, today they're in politics. We shouldn't normalize what is wrong. This issue of expecting politicians to give handouts is what is creating a problem, because that money they spend, they have to recover it. That's why when they win, they start now looking for ways to recover the money they have spent on elections. We must change that. Bashimpundu raised a number of issues. I understand a lot of people have lost hope in politicians. They have lost hope because there are too many lies that have been told, and too many truths that have been distorted, and people are losing interest. But let's look at some of the things that you have said. Why do people change when they form government? It's simple. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts. Absolute. It's simple as that. Yeah. A person who couldn't afford transport money to come to Radio Phoenix and appear on Let the People Talk, when you win power, immediately you start buying Range Rovers. So power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So how do we cure that? We need the citizens to rise up and make sure they are woke, make sure they demand, make sure they ask questions. If citizens allow politicians to do everything that they want, and they don't ask them hard questions, and they don't hold them accountable, politicians will continue to take advantage of citizens. The other reason why we are failing to develop is simple. We have failed as a country to identify which sectors of the economy we should invest in, which sectors of the economy we should control, which sectors of the economy we should hedge and protect. That's why, as for instance, as the DPP, we believe, Luchi, that when we form government, we shall not allow any foreigner to be in the mining of gold business. No, it should be reserved for the young people. The youth should be mining gold. We don't believe that when we form government, we should allow the export of raw copper materials. No, we don't believe that when we form government, the emerald industry and the industry to do with precious stones must go to foreigners. No, it should be a preserve only for the Zambian young people and women. We should have industries where a foreigner cannot be allowed to venture in. They do this everywhere. You can't go to China today and get 60,000 hectares of land. You can't. China can't even give you a 10 by 20 land. China cannot even give you a right to build on their land. They can't, because they know that land is a preserve for the citizens. People are fighting. People have gone to war over land. So we will itemize which industries need our investment. Number two, he talked about IMF and World Bank. I'm sad, actually, that the UPND have agreed to go into another IMF deal if they win government, if they win the elections. The IMF has never developed any country in the world. I am a scholar I'm an expert in international relations and multinationals. There is no single country that has been developed by the IMF. No, because IMF agenda is not to develop countries, but to make countries dependent on IMF deals and IMF contracts, IMF loans. So this is another mistake. You go into another IMF deal, it means more cost on fuel, more cost on electricity, a high cost of production, a high cost of living for your people. Yeah. It is not a deal to go into. IMF are not a panacea to our problems. IMF is part of our problems, and government must not go into another IMF deal. It will just create more poverty for our people in this country. The other thing why we're not making progress is the corruption, the theft, the tax evasion. The new report has just told us that 146 billion kwacha, about 3.5 billion US dollars has gone unaccounted for in illicit dealings. So you are losing 146 billion kwacha because your people are not paying tax. These foreigners who have taken over the companies, the country, are not paying taxes. They tax evasion, tax avoidance, and you have also given them tax holidays. So if a country can continue losing these amounts, how does a country develop? And this thing of thinking we have opened mines owned by who? Foreigners. We have reduced our country to cutting ribbons. And the one thing that I would like to say here is this. I don't know how politicians think. You go to University of Zambia, usiku. You go mwaperekera ma-t-shirt yolemba tibali. Sort sana, usiku. Then you are giving the students 100 kwacha for transport. Then you line them up. Mwavalika ma-t-shirt, mwapasa na 100 kwacha. Then wamba kupunda sort sana and you say you have support. I don't know why politicians always fool themselves.
Okay.
And we do these things to ourselves over and over again.
Can I read you two last questions because we're almost out of time.
Thanks.
There's someone who's on WhatsApp. Subsidies only create dependence as opposed to subsidies. It would be more meaningful if we eased up on all the bureaucracy and red tape. Instead of giving people fish, let's teach them how to fish. Subsidies have a clear track record of not working out in this region of the world. For context, I'm an economist and a financial analyst.
And since he's an economist, he also understands that the European Union spends billions of dollars in subsidies. Billions. That America spends billions in subsidies. Just last year, America spent $13.9 billion on subsidies in agriculture, just one sector. So it's not that subsidies are bad. No, it's because the white man who taught him, because we are now scholars of the white Western education. So they were taught subsidies are bad in Africa, but they are good in Europe. It doesn't make sense.
Okay. Subsidies
are good, but they must be targeted. I agree with him. They must be targeted, but they are not bad because every country subsidizes.
Mr. Mwanza was talking about people who surround the president to be wrong advisors. But not too long ago, Mr. Mwanza was in the thick of things, supporting and advising the wrong things. What makes Mr. Mwanza think that now people will listen to whatever he's seeing now because this is the same one who jumped out of one organization and formed one himself?
Yeah, so the good part of it is that Mr. Antonio Mwanza has never been a presidential advisor. That's a good part of it.
Okay.
If I had an opportunity to advise the president, the story could have been different.
Yeah. Chilekwa, Mr. Mwanza has spoken about how citizens are losing out $61 million because of suspension of excess duty and VAT on fuel. Can you explain how these taxes are administered on fuel prices to make listeners understand what he is saying and what would he have done differently in this situation?
Yeah, so the first thing we need to understand is that the oil marketing sector is controlled by foreign interests and foreign companies and private companies. So when you give them the tax, they are not at liberty to bring that tax break to you on the pump price because they are a private company. So that's why you lose the money. What we needed to do and what we need to do now is to go back to Indeni. That's why I'm happy that the Secretary to the Treasury has made it very clear that it was a calamitous mistake to turn Indeni into an oil marketing company. We need to invest $220 million in Indeni and make it a fully fledged refinery company with modern technology and modern equipment. That's the long-term solution. Number two, to reduce the cost and to make sure that prices of fuel is reduced, we need to subsidize fuel. We need to subsidize electricity, but also we need to have long-term purchasing agreement so we can buy fuel in bulk and cover ourselves for the next 4 to 6 months so that whatever happens at the international market, it doesn't affect us. Those are some of the practical things we need to do.
Okay. There's another question here from somebody who touches on technology. How can you change Zambia in terms of technology and mining?
Yeah, so again, it comes back to investment. Yeah. The countries that are moving faster in technology have invested. Look at how we are dealing with the Airtel. And I'll call Airtel out. We always have problems with Airtel. And every time Zicta has issued a statement, Victor has used the slap on the wrist of Airtel. If companies that are making huge profits, Airtel is not a Zambian company. Airtel is from India. MTN is from South Africa. All the money that we are making, that Airtel is making, MTN is making, the bulk of those profits are being shipped out of this country. What we need to do is to invest, for instance, in Zamtel, but also in terms of technology, the Ministry of Technology, which is a good thing. There's a Ministry of Technology. First question is, we have to ask ourselves, how equipped is it in terms of financing, in terms of investment from the government, in terms of policy direction? Do we supposed to have a grandpa as the Minister of Technology? Or we should have a young, savvy, these young guys to run the ministry?
No, but it's okay.
Yeah, but maybe a grandparent.
Okay. I mean, look at senators. Look at senators.
Yeah, but
look at American senators.
They're not doing
technology. No, but they're old.
You know that
they're old. They have young people behind them. They have young people behind them.
But let's have a young guy.
No, let's not be.
I don't think grandparents' technology is their field.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Let me just say, I don't think grandparents' technology is their field.
Let's not do that. That's why you have a whole team behind you.
Yeah, but that whole team.
So you have a PS who's young.
Yeah, but let's again, Luchi, let's take it back.
Let's have a smart guy.
Yeah, but let's take it back home. Let's look at, for instance, Zam.
The man doesn't need a speech.
No, maybe let's talk about. I know you're a decent man and you don't want to go that route. But let me just say this: we have Smart Zambia.
Yeah.
How equipped is it? How much investment are we putting in Smart Zambia? That's why the challenge is. One of the reasons why there's too much corruption here is because you need to know somebody in order for you to get something. Just imagine if the database, for instance, was a public document that anyone can Google online and see why this one has been picked and not this one has not been picked. If we can invest in making sure that we go digital in all government services and government goods, procurement, contracts, we can reduce corruption by over 70%. But because we have allowed a system that allows a Mr. Tembo to be the one who is holding the papers. You have to know Mr. Tembo for you to get your license. You have to know Mr. Tembo for you to get a farmer's license. You have to know Mr. Tembo for you to get a driver's license. You have to know Mr. Tembo for you even to get your own pension. This creates problems. So I think we are not investing in technology. We talk about it, but we don't invest in it. We talk about education, but we don't invest in it. We talk about health, we don't invest in it. And that's where the challenge is. We're just scratching on the surface. And why? It's because it's cheaper to become a president, to become an MP. So easy. All you need to do, kuenda chitama donations kuchechi, bas, na president, ama chitama donate. Kuenda chitaka bola ka tournament, na MP ama chitaka bola ka tournament. So it's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. So it's easy. It's just become easy to be a politician because we as citizens have made it easy. We don't demand for anything.
Lastly, there's somebody who's asking how they can get in touch with the party if they want to join the party.
So our office is in Kablonga, just behind the Kablonga Central Mall, right behind Kablonga Central Mall. That's where you find our secretariat. And we have a page. You can come to our page, inbox. We have also a fully fledged. What do you call those things which Romeo was doing? Is it website? Yeah, website. You see why we don't want grandparents? Because I'm one of them. So website, fully fledged website. We have that. And please, let's have a union. You come to DPP, you know you're going to talk about policy, you're going to talk about how to change this country, you're going to talk about unity. You know, politicians have done so much to divide us. I never knew that some of the people I went to school with were Bembas or Tongas or Lozis. I didn't know. I now know. So you can see Mulozi, Mutonga, Mubemba, Wakchipati. I didn't know those things. That politicians are the ones dividing us. So let's have a generation of young people focused and just look at the country as our country. It doesn't belong to the politicians. It belongs to all of us.
Antonio Marinho Mwanza, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
I'm glad, Luchi, to be here. It's an honor to have an opportunity. And thanks to you and Radio Phoenix and to all the Zambian people. Let's remain peaceful as we go to the next election. Remember, we only have one Zambia. We don't have any other country to go to.
We're back on Friday for Friday's edition of Let the People Talk. I believe Michael Carrick is joining us on Friday. We need to discuss the future of Manchester United. We can't be losing to Leeds United. So he's joining us on the program.